Welcome to the post-game recap edition of the Miami Herald's Dolphins In Depth podcast. I'm your host, Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly, and joining me is the illustrious Barry Jackson, coming from Cell Block 39. Barry, want to recap this 13-6 victory against the Washington Commanders. The Dolphins squeaked out their second preseason win. One thing I like about it is Mike McDaniels addressed it. They faced adversity late in the games, particularly on defense. Got, right up against it. Had to, for two straight games in the preseason, they had to hold it all together in order to preserve the win. So
yes, they held up against Trace McSorley. I'm sure it'll mean a lot come September, but I don't want to make too much light.
Hey, Trace McSorley might be better than the backup they have at quarterback.
That's true. We'll get to that in a minute. There is something to be said for the way they play defense overall these last couple of weeks. I've liked what I've seen from the guys competing for backup defensive tackle jobs with your guy, Deshaun Hand, Neville Gallimore, Brandon Pilley started last night and had a sack. That's encouraged me. And then the young corners, especially Storm Duck, Isaiah Johnson, who made a play on the final play of the game, keeping the Commanders out of the end zone. So defensively, there have been some encouraging things for sure.
Yeah, I'm a little bit troubled by the offense, how they have been able to muster a little bit more, particularly, Tua got in there. Let's address this now so we can get all the positives out the way, since everybody says I'm always Mr. Negative. Tua got in there, one drive, extremely efficient, 5 for 5. Fourth down pass, just pinpointed a pass. And this is one thing that I've always known, and we've always talked about it. Tua has always said he throws to spots. He doesn't throw to receivers. He doesn't throw to open players. He throws to spots where the receivers should be. I thought that pass to River Craycraft was just magnificent. I thought River has had a strong training camp. He's been consistent every single day. I'm at the point, I used to be, River was always my first guy off, and not first guy, but one of the last guys I took off the 53, and then he'd always make the team. So I realized I need to stop counting River out and really counting him in. And this camp, I came into the situation expecting him to be the number 4 wide receiver. And realistically, I think he might be the number 3 if he's healthy.
Yeah, I do too. He's had as good a camp as anyone with the organization. To me, he's number 3 if Odell Beckham begins the season on PUP. We all keep our fingers crossed that he's healthy after taking a hard hit last night to the turf after he fell after the touchdown pass. Mike McDaniel will give us an update on that on Monday. He was tweeting this morning, so that's encouraging. Speaking of Craycraft, to me, the receiver, I think we gained clarity to receiver a little bit last night in this sense.
Did we?
Yes. I think Ezukama had the biggest night probably of anyone on the team in terms of helping the roster chances. To me, he went from one of your first guys out to now likely on the team, the 5 catches for 65 yards. That's worth investing more time in with a physical skill set. And as you said, a body different from their other receivers. I think Malik Washington stays despite a pedestrian night. So to me, your receivers are clear. The only question is, will Craycraft miss any time? Will Odell Beckham begin the year on PUP? But there's nobody else, Omar, that I would say even has a chance to make the team at receiver. With Braylon Sanders limping off last night, I would think you could probably eliminate his chances. Nobody else that has a chance here among this group of Willie Snead and Mike Harley and Anthony Schwartz, who's still injured, and Jaquan Burton, and bless the young man's heart for playing running back when they opened the cupboard and found that there were no running backs left in the cupboard. But to me, your 6 are clear. So maybe you go outside and add someone to supplant one of those 6. Or 7, I guess it's potentially 7, depending on if Odell is ready. But to me, that's your group. Are you still looking for receiver help on the street?
No, and I know history says that it takes receivers forever to learn this offense. I've said this on this podcast for the entire week, and I still believe in this. I don't know if Eric Uzukama is polished. I don't know if he's smart enough, but I know he's got some physical God-given gifts. And if we can continue to coach that up and pull that out, I think he'd be a completely different weapon than what they have on this team, with the exception of maybe Jonnu Smith. There's a toughness. There's, it's just a matter of getting the consistency out of him. And I don't think he played a consistent game. I just think what he did was tantalize you with the talent. And you cannot ignore the talent. This is where people are upset at me because I always say River Craycraft over Malik Washington. I get it. Malik is a young draft pick. He's a shiny new toy. but I'm sorry, I'm not keeping the Honda Accord over the Mercedes Benz. Eric Uzukama is a Mercedes Benz of an athlete. Malik Washington is a Honda Accord. It's nice. It's okay. It can get me around the corner, but it's not going to be impressive. It's not stylish. And I want both, but if I had to choose one, it's going to be Uzukama. And Malik, let's groom him on the practice squad. I just cannot let go of Eric Uzukama because there's something there, and coaches, good coaching, should be able to pull it out of him. And I just don't know if he's had that kind of, yes, I know he's been here 2 years, but I want to invest a little more.
I'm totally with you on that. To me, if this were a bracketology show in advance of March Madness, and if you were saying you keep 6 receivers, and if Beckham is off PUP, and if Craycraft is fine, then to me, your first one out, as they say in March Madness, should be Malik Washington. Ezukama should be your 6th, in whatever order, behind obviously Tyreek, Jalen, Odell Beckham, River Craycraft, Braxton Berrios, who needs to be on your team, even though some fans are complaining about the drop last night, which was deflected. So to me, Ezukama is your 6th. Malik Washington should be your first one out as the 7th, but I don't think he will be. I just don't see them giving up on a 6th-round pick, who was among the leaders in the country in receptions at Virginia last year. It's very difficult to admit you made a mistake. And not saying Malik Washington's a mistake, but it's difficult to cut your 5th or 6th round picks after the draft. 7th round's another story. So I think he stayed. Yes.
They did it last year.
True. And Patrick McMorris is in the same boat at safety. So I'm with you, but there could be an opportunity for both if Beckham does begin the year on PUP, which is becoming more and more of a possibility because he's still not active. I was going to ask you real quick also. I was going to ask you, Omar, real quick. Has a tight end, has Hayden Rucci done anything to make you think, there's something there? We know with the physical skill set, 2 catches last night as well, he's worth investing time in on the practice squad. But in your mind, does he have any chance at all to make them consider him as the 4th tight end, noting that Forston's still hurt with a stinger, knowing that Tanner Connor is still hurt with what appears to be ribs? Is he worth even considering for a 53, or is that a significant stretch, do you think?
No, I think that's a little bit of a stretch. He's probably a practice squad option for me. The only people that I try to keep on my 53 are people that I worry about others claiming. Everybody else is practice squad. Tanner Connor is probably my only worry at tight end. The fact that he's battling this rib injury and we don't know how serious it is, maybe he can begin the year on the IR. We'll see. Jody Fortson is probably one of my first guys off my 53. Just haven't seen anything from him all camp. And now he's injured. If anything, we can practice squad that. But to me, one of the major components and factors that sort of determine where this team is when it comes to putting together that 53-man roster is special teams contributions, Barry. And I said this to you probably earlier this last week. Dan Crossman should get about 5 guys. He should be able to identify this guy is my guy. You guys got to figure it out what you do with him at his original position, but I need them on the team. And I actually asked Mike McDaniel that question in the presser last night, and he gave a pretty interesting answer.
About the connectivity and communication within the coaching staff. What you don't want is you get close to the cut-down date and, the Joe Barry, the linebacker coach, is like, wait, this guy's good on special teams? The connectivity of coaches communicating and, I'm very happy with our coaching staff communicating in that way because, they've been on the front end of, all right, well, this guy's doing phenomenal, or really like what he might be able to do on special teams. Okay, let's make sure we're giving him the right opportunities on defense. Okay, this this running back might be able to help us. Okay, we better make sure he's getting opportunities in special teams. Though that connectivity, I think we've been on the same page the entire process. I wouldn't put a number on how many guys you get, but you know that you have to have guys that can excel in each phase so that you have somebody to follow behind. I think for the most part, we're fortunate in that there's not many one-trick ponies on this team. That the guys that are thriving in their particular, whether it's offense or defense, those guys that are thriving are very involved in special teams and doing a good job, and vice versa, so that we have contributors, because the 53 or the 46 on game day, you can't have many people that aren't participating, and there's going to be a lot of field position points. It's always been that way in punt return, but the kickoff and kick return are big plays that can determine the end result of the game. So you better be very well equipped in those phases this season if you're trying to win football games like we want to.
Yeah, that's Mike McDaniel talking about the importance of special teams, which I think maybe makes up or accounts for about 4 or 5 of those final decisions. One guy who I thought was probably on this team because of special teams was Chris Brooks. Unfortunately, he suffered an injury yesterday. We don't know exactly the nature of the injury, but it looked pretty serious. That's going to change the landscape of that running back room a little bit. How many running backs do you think that they try to keep, Barry?
I think they keep only 4 now. I think it's clear-cut, obviously, with Mostert, Achane, Jalen Wright, who missed last night with a minor injury, as McDaniel described it, Jeff Wilson, who has an issue with his nose, but he has a skill set that's valuable to the team as a hard runner. So those 4 seem set to me. You could have made the case for Brooks or Ahmed as your number 5. I was on the Brooks bandwagon, as you know, but I think the chances of Brooks staying as a 5 now seem slim after last night's injury, which could be collarbone, it could be shoulder. He was undergoing more tests on Sunday morning at the time of this taping. And even though there's value, obviously, in Ahmed with special team skills, I just think with the foot, it's probably a bit of a long shot if he makes your initial 53. So to me, they could start the year with 4 running backs, add an extra offensive lineman, keep another corner or safety. And if there are concerns about Jeff Wilson's nose early in the season, or if other guys are beat up, then maybe add a 5th running back on the waiver wire just to start the season. Or more likely, you have someone on your practice squad who you can promote for the opener. Because remember, practice squad guys, you get 3 elevations still per season this year. So I say 4 at running back. Your special teams question, I wanted to get back to that. It was a great question last night. McDaniel gave a good answer. As far as guys who are on the team or will be on the team because of special teams who would not be on the team otherwise, I would put Siran Neal on the top of that list. Now, Neal did have a good play in coverage last night. He's had some moments as a cornerback. He's also struggled at times as a cornerback in camp. But he's on this team because of special teams. But what that does is it crowds the numbers and limits opportunities for others. Because if Siran Neal is your 6th corner, which he has to be because of his special team skill, does that mean that Needham is off the team? I know we're both hoping Nick makes it, and we think he does, but we're not sure. Does it mean that you can't keep Storm Duck, who has been excellent all camp? This is where special teams and having guys who are primarily special teams guys complicates things a lot to me.
Yeah. Patrick McMorris. I know everybody's a big fan of Patrick McMorris because he had one good game against the Atlanta Falcons. I really didn't notice him much against the Washington Commanders, but Patrick McMorris, if he's going to make this team, he's going to make this team on special teams. Channing Tindall, who has had 2 good preseason games, 2 sacks for Channing Tindall. Hello, welcome to the NFL, Channing. If he's going to make this team, it's going to be on special teams. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out and how that sort of impacts the final landscape of this team. It's a complicated dynamic. One of the factors that could impact how the 53-man roster is built is how many quarterbacks do they keep. There's a new NFL rule that allows you to elevate your practice squad quarterback for each and every single NFL game. And that hints that a lot of teams are going to just keep 2 on their 53-man roster. Now, Barry, if every team only keeps 2 on their 53-man roster, that means there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks that are waived on August 27th. A lot of quarterbacks, maybe they're free agents that you have to sign. A lot of quarterbacks, maybe there's waiver wire claims that you have to put in. Dolphins are pretty low on that waiver wire claim, but not everybody's looking for a quarterback. If I'm the Miami Dolphins, I am definitely looking for a quarterback upgrade, and understand this isn't about what we've seen in the 2 preseason games. Right now they have Skylar Thompson has a 58 quarterback rating, and Mike White has a 56.3 quarterback rating. Trash, both of them. This is about what we've seen from OTAs on. Remember, Tua Tagovailoa was not participating in OTAs in 11-on-11s. And it did not look good then. Did not look good in training camp. Did not look good in the exhibition season. How much longer can we go with this lackluster look at quarterback? And now Mike McDaniel's admitting that Skylar Thompson is really holding on to that number 2 spot.
I agree with you. They're totally deficient in backup quarterback. I have no trust in either guy if Tua is out long-term or even if Tua is out short-term, but I don't think there's a damn thing they can do about it, Omar. I don't think Gardner Minshew's walking through that door. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo's walking through that door. There's no one that they're going to find who's better. What teams are giving up quality backup quarterbacks at this point of the off? We're actually in training camp. No one is. So to me, the Dolphins are in this position because
Zach Wilson?
Well, I would not go down that road. I mean, he was the NFL quarterback last year.
Talent,
he was
ability.
The worst quarterback last year. I don't want to touch Zach Wilson. What I will tell you this: the Dolphins
He can be coached up. He can be coached up.
Yeah, I know that. I'm not going to go there.
Mike McDaniel can coach him up
because they have made 2 personnel blunders that have come back to hurt them. One was opting for Skylar over Brock Purdy. And you could say every team passed on Purdy. That's absolutely correct. So I'm not saying Chris Greer is egregiously to blame for this, but they could have had Brock Purdy. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is the White signing from the beginning mystified me. I don't know why they had such a conviction on him. And again, we love Mike White. He's the best person you'll ever meet. But I don't understand the fascination with him early in free agency 15 months ago, 16 months ago. There was just no need to go there because the body of work had been so unimpressive overall. As we've said, he had a couple of really good games, but generally he had not been a good NFL quarterback. So to me, they should have explored other options such as Minshew. There were other players who were more prepared to help them win if Tua were injured. So they're in this boat because of those 2 personnel mistakes. And they're going to have to live with the consequences because nobody better is emerging suddenly in late August, in my view. I mean, does Zach Wilson really appeal to you? I know, obviously he's in that battle in Denver, which is likely going to be won by Bo Nix.
He's going to be dislodged. Understand he was a top 5 pick because of arm talent, skills, tools. He got broken in New York. The media market killed him, lost his confidence. Who better to build up Zach Wilson than Mike McDaniel and this coaching staff? The ability is there. If I'm not talking about for 53, practice squad, development. Hell, we took Brady Quinn. We took Josh Rosen. We took a bunch of broken quarterbacks. We can my thing is, do you have somebody on your practice squad that can give your defense a good look in terms of just challenging with the arm? And who knows how we can fix him? And we got to do something, Barry. We cannot look. If you look at that position on the entire team, depth-wise, they got nothing after Tua. And Tua is probably the most fragile quarterback in the entire NFL. So do you have something that makes you feel comfortable that, hey, if we have to play a month, we can play a month with this quarterback and win games? Do you have that on this roster?
But this problem should have been solved in free agency this year or free agency last year. It's too late. It's too late. You're stuck with these guys.
Too late, Barry.
Well, one thing I think we need to see this week is Mike White hasn't had very much chance over the course of the last 2 weeks. He needs to be paired with better players. He's been playing with scrubs, basically, of these last couple of weeks. A mix of journeymen and young players who are trying to find their way in the league.
Did he impress you before you was with scrubs, though? Did he impress you before you was with scrubs?
Not particularly. I'd like to see Mike White take a ton of first and second team reps this year. This week, give Tua some rest this week. He doesn't need to play every first team rep. The 2 practices, Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday and Tampa. Let's give Mike White an extended look where he's playing with good players, where he's playing with Tyreek Hill and Jonnu Smith, and against good players, Miami's first team defense, at least whoever's healthy, and against Tampa's first team defense on Wednesday. And let's see what the results are.
To be a quarterback battle.
Plenty of opportunities.
You want this whole week to be a quarterback battle?
More than enough chances.
You
Huh?
want this whole week to be a quarterback battle.
I do. Yes, because to me, there's no clarity. I would have said entering the weekend that Skyler had the edge. Now, after last night, I'm not so sure. Obviously, Berrios could have caught that touchdown pass. But the things that worry you about Skyler, obviously, and you know this more than anyone, the uneven accuracy, not knowing what you're getting from play to play, his reluctance to just find a spot in the pocket and throw the ball. There's always this skittishness to his game where he always feels like there's pressure, even if there's no pressure, and he's racing around and he's throwing off balance and he's throwing off his front foot and he's throwing off his back foot half the time. I know they've tried to coach that out of him, right? Because we know how good McDaniel and Bevel are with quarterbacks. We know they've tried. At this point in year 3, can they coach it out of him, or is this just who he is? Is he a 19 for 39 for 161 yards, 1 TD, 3 picks, 61 quarterback rating guy every day? I'm beginning to think that's who he might be. And if that's the case, you have to give Mike White a chance with better players and against better players over the next week, because you know what? It's only fair.
I have found what they've done with the quarterback situation the most interesting thing of training camp, and we talked about this from very early. I think that $3.5 million in cap space that you could create by cutting Mike White is staring at them, just staring.
And it's tempting them, obviously, because they're giving Skyler every chance in the world to unseat him.
And that's exactly what it seems like they're doing. They're giving Skyler every single chance in the world to unseat him. I don't know if he's done it. But I would actually follow your lead. These first 2 practices, does Tua really need to work? No. We need to see Tua in the joint practice against Tampa, and then he's not going to play in the final exhibition games. So give Mike and Skyler a legit 2 days to battle it out. Go to Tampa, have Tua work against the Buccaneers, and then have the final showdown. And keep Ryan Tannehill on speed dial. Hey, Ryan, you like this $3.5 million for Mike White? Holler at us. Even though I am not the biggest of Ryan Tannehill fans, and I don't think he'll even come back here for $3.5 million. If I'm Ryan Tannehill, I'm looking for a better situation like Minnesota. I could go play with Justin Jefferson. Like, sign me up. And all I got to do is beat out Sam Darnold. Come on, I could do that if I'm Ryan Tannehill. But I just don't. I'm not trading for a quarterback. I'm not trying to sign a veteran for more than that $3.5 million I'm going to give Mike White if it's going to be Mike White. But I got to do something, Barry. I got to do something. You, as a team, you can't look at this situation and say, okay, we got a Super Bowl contending team, but if we lose our quarterback, we're playing for the lottery.
Right. As you know, I would call Tannehill tomorrow just to see where his head is at, see if he would have interest in coming here as a backup. I'm with you. I think there are better options for him, even though he likes South Florida. A team will lose a starting quarterback that is a contender, and he will have a chance at some point down the line, just like Matt Ryan received calls after he retired, just like Tom Brady received calls for 2 years after he retired. Not saying Tannehill is either of those guys, but he will get a call. So I'm just not sure.
Just like we called Jay Cutler out of retirement.
Exactly. Yeah, and Gase had the connection with him, and Greer has a connection, obviously, with Tannehill as well. So, yes, that would be the one guy I would call, but I don't think there's anyone else in the market, either unemployed or likely to be unemployed, who would be a clear-cut upgrade over what they have. So I'm with you. That's the area of the team that I think was addressed most delinquently over the past 17 months. I never understood why they thought that they were good enough. I guess they thought that White is smart, he can be trusted, and I guess with Skyler they saw an arm and a skill set that they thought they could extract something more from, and they have extracted a little bit more, but you just can't get the unevenness out of his game, the inconsistency out of his game. I think that might be a thankless task at this point.
Yeah, let's move on to Steve Ross, the Dolphins owner, who came out and spoke publicly for the first time, maybe since last year's exhibition season.
This decade, he has not spoken to us this decade. So his first comments in this particular decade, and weren't surprising. Was there anything he said that struck you?
No, I think we need to put more stock into the fact that they want to be first in class in everything that they do as an organization. That's why they've been rated the #1 franchise by the NFLPA in so many different regards. Just the way they treat the media, meals we get every single day, the water dispenser that we just got to save Earth. They are really doing things first class. Now, Steve wants to put together a winner, wants to put together a competitor, and he believes that this team is a Super Bowl contending team. And I would agree with him in this regard. And I think Teron Armstead put it best on an interview he did with Kay Adams. He said, everybody thinks they're playing for the Super Bowl, but realistically about 12 teams have a realistic shot of doing that. And we're one of those 12 teams. And if you think about it, there's no doubt about it. With this offense and this defense, as long as they stay healthy, which is one of my major concerns, a lot of old people on this team, Barry, a lot of old people. If they stay healthy, they should be a Super Bowl contender, and Steve Ross said that. Now, interestingly enough, one of our colleagues, Joe
Shad?
Yeah, Joe Shad asked Tua Tagovailoa about Steve Ross's comments and if he believes that the Dolphins are a Super Bowl contending team. And here's what Tua had to say.
Contender? Yeah, I think there's about 10 teams that have a chance.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, you just said contender. I think there's 10 teams. Are the Dolphins one of the 10 teams?
I think so.
You think so? Yeah. I would say that's the reason we play this game. If none of us have the belief that we can do it, it won't happen for us on our team. So of course we have that belief.
Tua, because of how sharp you look going 5 for 5, I'll ask you personally, do you feel regular season ready right now?
You never know until you get out there and you actually play the first real snap against their best and you have your best. You never really know if you're ready until you go out there and you get challenged and you see and you get looks that you've never seen. So, with the joint practices, they do some justice within the practices, but we're not getting hit. Outside of that, it's just a day-to-day thing. I'm not going to say I'm ready or I'm not ready. When that time comes, we're going to see what our team can do and see if we're ready.
So what does it say about this offense? No Teron, no Brewer, no Tyreek, no Waddle, and you guys marched on the field the first time you see the field in 2024.
Yeah, that's not the first time we've not had those guys in there, and we've played it and we've scored. Would it be good to have those guys? It'd be great to have those guys. It opens up our game plan for a lot of deep things. And it opens up the run game as well with the 2 shells that we get with those guys in. But outside of that, football is football with whoever you got in there. You got to call the play, you got to see it, envision it, and then you go through your keys. If it's 1 high, this is how I'm going to read it. If it's 2 high, this is how I'm going to read it, regardless of who's in.
Yeah, that's Tua Tagovailoa addressing are they Super Bowl contenders? Yeah, I can't name 10 teams better than the Miami Dolphins right now on paper. Now, when you start to see, just imagine, Barry, we've seen these 2 exhibition games, and how many players have suffered serious injuries that are going to keep them out for a month, and if not more? We'll say, 3 a game? Mm-hmm. Imagine we play 10 games, lose 3 a game. Where are we going to be depth-wise, talent-wise? In November and December. And that's really what's held this team back the last couple of years. And I think it's still going to be a factor now. Now, the question is, do you have the depth to withstand those injuries? And let's go through this roster. You have the depth to withstand injuries at quarterback. We both would say, hell no. Do you have the depth at running back to sustain 2 injuries?
Absolutely, yes. It's the best position on the team, I think, outside of obviously your starting wide receivers.
Wide receivers. Do you have the depth to sustain 2 injuries? Do you have the depth to play without Jalen Waddle for the entire season?
No, I mean, if the 2 guys who are injured are Tyreek and Jalen, no. If you lose only one of them, I still have doubts about whether they could sustain it, just because we haven't seen enough from any of the backup receivers other than Craycraft. It's been pretty underwhelming. Tight end? Probably, because Julian Hill's been really, really impressive. We know he can block. He's caught the ball well. John Embry's had him studying tapes of Kittle. And I think they'd be okay at tight end if they lose one of the 3. But obviously, if they lose Jonnu Smith, it would hurt them because they would then be losing the biggest element that they injected into the team this offseason, which was more yak on offense. How about offense?
Tanner Conner can fill that role. And I actually believe Tanner Conner can fill that role.
Yes.
We've seen it in practice in the days that Jonnu Smith has not worked. Tanner Connor's had those plays, and Tanner Connor looks pretty damn good to me. Let's go offensive line, and this is my baby, Barry. You lose 2 guys for 8 games. Doesn't matter which 2 guys. Do you feel comfortable, or you feel Joe Philbin-ish, queasy?
No, I'm queasy now. I mean, I would go out and acquire a right guard, whether it's the Steelers' right guard or someone. I'd be willing to spend the $5 to $7 million needed and a conditional 5th round pick or a 6th round pick to upgrade right guard, knowing that you're going to need Liam at center if Brewer's injury with his hand carries over into the season, or if Brewer's injured during the course of the year. I'm not comfortable with that position, even though Patrick Paul's had a very good camp. He obviously allowed at least 1 sack last night. He was okay last night. He wasn't great. He let his quarterback get hit and fumbled. So I don't feel comfortable there if they lose anyone, or even if they stay healthy.
Hold on, wait a minute. You don't feel comfortable to tackle with Kendall Lamb there as your number 2, as your number 3?
I feel moderately comfortable. Comfortable. I guess they're okay at tackle, but obviously with Teron's health, and if you lose Austin Jackson again, then you're in a spot where you're playing both Paul and Lamb, and then we'll see, right? I mean, that would be a little uncomfortable, but I don't think either of us is comfortable with the interior of the line. Both of us think Jack Driscoll has emerged. I know we talked about that at practice last week. He had a key block on the Chris Brook 59-yard run last night. So to me, Driscoll should get a long look against Lester Cotton at right guard. That job could ultimately be Liam's once Aaron Brewer returns. Aaron Brewer, I should say. But Driscoll's impressed us, right?
Yeah, definitely. Driscoll's impressed us. I understand why they have Lester Cotton playing ahead of him. I don't agree, but c'est la vie. This is, and as I continue to say, Barry, in Butch Barry, I trust. Defensive line, I'm not sure that they've got enough there. And in fact, that's probably one of those positions where I'm putting in a claim on the waiver wire. I'm adding a guy. Is Brandon Peely good enough to be on your 53, Barry?
I admire him for seizing on his chance and doing good work throughout camp. Could you find a better backup nose in the open market? There's a decent chance. Heck, if they lose Calais Campbell, or even worse, if they lose Sealer, they're screwed against the run. And that's no disrespect to the yeoman's work done this preseason by Isaiah Mack, who's really turned heads, and Peely. Gallimore has improved his game. Jonathan Harris has had some moments. Deshaun Hand obviously is steady, but if they lose either of those starters, they're in a very difficult spot. I think if they, God forbid, lost Sealer, they'd go probably from the league's 5th best team against the run, which they were last year, averaging 3.8 yards per clip, to probably bottom half. I think he's that impactful. What about edge? Are you comfortable there knowing that Chubb is likely going to miss the first month at least?
Chubb and Cameron Good. Everybody always forgets about Cameron Good. Yes, I am comfortable. I know Quentin Bell hasn't exactly shown up in the preseason, but I think that there's still talent there. Chop Robinson, fans got a little bit of a taste of what you see when Chop Robinson's out there at the edge. Every team is going to run at Chop, and I promise you're not going to like what you see until he develops. That's a situation that you need to continue to monitor. The quickness, the first step, the get off, the tackle in the backfield at the handoff. That's what he can give you 3-4 times a game. Just absolutely timing that snap and getting off and shooting the gap and being in the backfield and getting the sack. But as an edge player, they call it the edge for a reason. If you cannot set the edge, nobody's ever going to have to pass, because all they're going to do is run for first down after first down after first down after first down. And that's something that they need to clean up. I need to watch him in Tampa. This is something I've been monitoring for a while. It's not just him. Mohamed Kamara as well. Quentin Bell is probably your best edge setter. Even Emmanuel Ogbah isn't that phenomenal edge setting. That's why Vic Fangio didn't play him last year. Thank God Jalen Phillips is coming back, but you really just need to hold it down for a month. But am I comfortable with the talent there? Yeah, I guess I am. Cornerback situation. Actually, we need to go to the inside linebacker, especially with David Long suffering what seemed to be like a hand, wrist, forearm injury. Are you comfortable if you had to go into a game with a Duke Riley as a starter for a month?
Well, I'm comfortable if they lose one guy of their 4 veterans, but they've already lost one guy. Anthony Walker's missed most of training camp with an injury. You're beginning to wonder now, does he make the team, or is he on IR initially? If you lose only one, I think you're fine with Long, Jordan Brooks, and in this case, Duke Riley. Or if you get Anthony Walker back and you were to lose one of the other three, I think you'd be okay. But losing two of the four, I don't feel a comfort level with what they have behind those four, even though Tyndall has had some good moments, had half a sack last night, a sack against Atlanta. You mentioned his value on special teams. He's an improved player. Is he going to be a great starting caliber linebacker? No, but I think he's going to be good enough where he can be a backup linebacker in this league. So my comfort level there is okay, but not if they lose two more guys. What about corner?
Right now, especially with Cam Smith suffering a hamstring and re-aggravating his hamstring, I counted it up, and they're going to take 7 into the joint practices against Tampa Bay, assuming Ethan Bonner and Jalen Ramsey do not practice. And I don't see any benefit to having Jalen Ramsey practice. Ethan Bonner with a concussion, I probably sit him out another week, or concussion-like symptoms. I probably sit him out another week, or maybe test him against the joint practices and then scale it back. I am not like you, Barry. I'm not a big believer in any of those 3 rookies need to be on the 53-man roster. All 3 of them can be on my practice squad. I want all 3 of them around. You can never have enough cornerbacks. But I am a little bit queasy if I got to go into a game with Nick Needham and Saron Neal as my backup boundary cornerback. So, yes, I would probably be exploring the waiver wire for cornerback options, so somebody that can help me. But then there's always the break in case of emergency, give Xavier Howard a call, even though I don't know how it ended. I don't know what that relationship's like, but I don't think that's even happening. But you always know, hell, we probably never thought Emmanuel Ogbah would come back, and here he is. Safety. Tough position to call it. Right now we're looking at it without Jordan Poyer. I didn't see Jordan Poyer. I saw him yesterday. No cast on the hand. So maybe it's a removable cast that he puts on when he's going into a practice situation. But the fact that you don't have a cast on the hand makes me think that the thumb is healing up. And then Javon Holland, we got no idea why Javon Holland hasn't practiced, and I don't expect him to practice in this week against Tampa. But tough decision to make on Marcus May. Tough decision to make on Nick Needham. Elijah Campbell is absolutely on. That's going to be one of special teams safe guys. And then you got your rookie from California. What's his name?
Well, we have Mark Perry, the TCU kid who made some plays last night, but I don't think he has any chance at the 53. McMorris, obviously the kid who you were talking about, the 6th-round pick. I was leaning yes toward him being on the 53 after the Atlanta game. After this past week, I would lean no. I would say it's a clear-cut top 4, obviously, with Poyer and Holland. And then May, to me, is on the team. Impactful last night, 5 tackles early in the game, around the ball. As you and I talked about last week, you need his ability with calling out signals. You need his experience, his savvy on the roster. As you said, Elijah Campbell makes it for sure because he's improved as a safety, but more importantly, he's a really good special teams player. So those 4 make it. I would say at this point, McMorris is one of my first out. I would say Needham makes it because he can play both positions. I want to add one quick final thing on corner. Storm Duck, first 2 preseason games, targeted 8 times, allowed 1 completion for 16 yards. This kid can play. A lot of people thought he could be drafted. To me, he's the guy who could crack the 53. I know Isaiah Johnson has the intriguing skill set and the size. I'd be surprised if someone claimed him despite that for their 53. I think you can sneak him onto the practice squad. Storm Duck, I'm not so sure. There could be a waiver claim on him. I would consider Storm Duck. If Storm Duck has a really good week, and if it comes down to keeping Storm Duck over a 4th tight end or 5th running back, I'm telling you, young
Storm Duck over Tanner Conner
are worth investing in. I'm not saying I would definitely do it, but you gotta give Storm Duck.
Connor. You're keeping
because
Storm
Tanner
Duck
Conner's
over Tanner
hurt.
Conner.
I would say this:
question,
if Tanner Conner cannot play early in the season, and if Storm Duck has a magnificent practice week and game in Tampa, yes, I do it. I do it because I don't want to give up young corners. And as far as Howard goes,
Isaiah Johnson.
Yes, no, I know you love the skill set there. I would say this as far as Xavier. To me, he'd be the only guy I would call, or at least the first guy I would call if this happens. If Ethan Bonner remains out with the concussion symptoms, or Bonner returns and is just not very good in the next couple of weeks, or if Cam Smith is out long-term with a hamstring, then I would call X. You'd have to create room for him on your 53. You'd have to see if he'd want to come back at a low salary. Both of those might be no. but I would at least make the call. Would
X is
would
not
X
playing for
consider it in your view? You know X better than any of us.
I think he would, but I think there are other situations. I think this is a situation where he's going to cherry pick what he does when he does it. It's not just him; it's Stephon Gilmore. There are tons of other cornerbacks that are out there that are probably in week 2 when their contracts don't have to be guaranteed. Will cherry pick situations, but yeah, I don't think X comes back unless he's in a starting role. That means something would have to happen to one of your top 2 guys.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't see him coming back now if Fuller and Ramsey are healthy. I see him considering coming back only if one of those 2 goes down.
Yeah, definitely. Well, on that note, folks, we got practice on Monday and Tuesday. We head up to Tampa for a joint practice on Wednesday. That's going to be exciting. We'll be there to cover it. And then we have the exhibition game on Friday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Dolphins In Depth will be there for you every single day. Hopefully you like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, and we will see you tomorrow.